Have you ever really thought about what it takes to build a country? I mean, from the ground up. It's more than just people and land, right? It's about the rules, the systems, the whole idea of a state. Today, we're going to look at the actual blueprint for a nation, those fundamental building blocks that take a concept and make it real. So let's open up the schematics and see how it all fits together.
So, let's start with that huge question. How do you build a country from scratch? It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? But it's not some kind of magic. Just like any giant building project, it all comes down to having a solid blueprint, a specific set of essential parts, and of course, a master plan to guide you.
All right, so every blueprint has to start with a list of materials. And when you're building a country, that means we first have to define what a state even is in the eyes of the world. And you know, in international law, this isn't a vague philosophical thing. It's a very specific label that demands four essential, non-negotiable ingredients. Think of this as your foundational checklist. First, you've got to have a people, right? A community of individuals. Second, you need a territory, a defined piece of the map they can call home. Third, you absolutely need a government to make the rules and, run the place. And finally, here's the real kicker, sovereignty. This is the big one. It's the supreme, ultimate authority within your borders. It means you're the boss, and no other country can tell you what to do. If you're missing even one of these, then legally speaking, you don't actually have a state. Simple as that.
Okay, so you've gathered your ingredients. You have your people, your land, a government, and sovereignty. Now what? Well, you need the instruction manual, the master plan that shows how it all works together. And in the world of state building, that plan, that's the Constitution.
A constitution does two really important things, and they kind of work against each other, which is what's so brilliant about it. On one hand, it creates the government. It takes all that raw political power and channels it into real working institutions. But, and this is key, it also puts a leash on that very same power. It draws the line. It's the official rulebook that's designed to create a controlled government, not one that can do whatever it wants. I love this quote. It just perfectly captures the almost magical power of a constitution. I mean, think about it. How can a few sheets of paper possibly become hoops of steel that are strong enough to restrain an entire government? Well, the answer is this idea of political chemistry. It's not the paper itself, it's the shared belief, the collective agreement of the people that transforms those words into unbreakable rules that even the most powerful leaders have to follow.
So, with our Constitution as the master plan, we get to the really big design choices. And trust me, there's no one-size-fits-all model here. The people building the state have to choose a structure that makes sense for them, for their history, their geography. Let's look at two of the most fundamental choices you have to make.
First up, how do you spread the power out across the land? One option is a unitary state. This is where power is really centralized. The national government is king, and any local or regional governments are basically underneath it. It's a classic top-down approach. The other option is a federal state. Here, power is divided. It's shared between the central government and the regional governments, like states or provinces. Each of them is independent within its own little bubble, kind of like partners in power.
Next big choice, how do the different branches of government interact? In a parliamentary system, the executive, that's your prime minister and their team, is actually chosen from the parliament. The two branches are essentially fused together, and the prime minister needs to keep the support of the parliament to stay in power. But in a presidential system, the executive, the president, is elected totally separately from the legislature. They both get their power directly from the people, which creates that famous separation of powers. Okay, now we're getting into some really cool political theory. This table breaks down this idea that a country's origin story, how it was born, basically writes its political DNA for the future. Just follow the logic with me. Look at that top row. If a state is founded by conquest, its politics tend to look like court politics, kings in their inner circle. Its constitution is a charter, something granted from the top down. And its ultimate symbol of power? The army. Now contrast that with the bottom row. A state founded by a covenant, a pact between equals. Its politics become open, full of different groups or factions. Its constitution has to be written down, so everyone knows the deal. And its final form is often a federal system, designed to protect all the different groups that made the pact. See how that works? The origin story isn't just history, it's a blueprint for everything that comes next. All right, let's zoom in now from that big picture to one really specific but crucial component, the executive branch. We tend to think of just one person at the top, like a president, but the state-building blueprint actually has some very different and pretty surprising designs for who gets to hold the power.
And to describe these models, we get some fantastic terminology. First, there's the monocephalous, or one-headed executive. This is the one most of us know best, a single, powerful leader like a president. Then, things get interesting. You have the bicephalous, or two-headed system. Here, executive power is actually split between two people, often a president and a prime minister, like you see in France. And then, the most unusual of all is the acephalous, or headless model. In this setup, power is held by a whole group, like a committee or a council. Pretty wild, right? 3 totally different ways to design the top job.
So there you have it. The ingredients, the master plan, the design choices, that's the blueprint of a state. But, this isn't just a history lesson. In our world today, with global markets, instant communication, and challenges that don't care about borders like climate change, the whole idea of a self-contained sovereign state is facing some serious pressure. And that leads us to one final, huge question.
As all these global forces get stronger and stronger, what is the future of the state itself? Are we watching it slowly dissolve, becoming less and less relevant? Or are we actually moving towards a completely new kind of blueprint? Maybe a loose world confederation or even a single global federation? That's the provocative question this whole blueprint leaves us with. What comes next?